You know that feeling where you have a decision to make and it shouldn't be that complicated, but somehow you've been turning it over in your head for 3 days? You play out every possible scenario. You imagine what could go wrong. You lie awake at night replaying a conversation from Tuesday, wondering if you came across weird. And by the time you're done thinking about it, you're more confused than when you started. If that sounds familiar, I want to show you 3 things that actually help. Not just stop overthinking, because that's about as useful as telling someone to just stop being anxious, but real, practical tools that give your brain somewhere better to go. If you're tired of living inside your own head, stay with me. Here's the tricky thing about overthinking. It disguises itself as being responsible. You tell yourself you're being careful, thorough. You're just making sure you don't mess this up. And that feels like the right thing to do. But what your brain is actually doing is generating problems that don't exist yet. Instead of solving the situation in front of you, it's busy running simulations. What if they hate my idea? What if I make the wrong call? What if I say something and it comes out wrong? And none of that is actually helping you decide anything. It's just exhausting you. Over time, this creates 3 real problems. The first is decision paralysis. You get stuck between 2 options that are both fine and you just can't pick. Not because one is clearly better, but because your brain won't let you commit to anything less than perfect. The second is emotional exhaustion. You're living in stress that hasn't happened yet. You're feeling the anxiety of a future worst-case scenario as if it's already real. And that wears you down in a way that's hard to explain to people who don't experience it. The third is missed opportunities. While you're planning the perfect move, life keeps going. The moment passes, the window closes, and you're still thinking. The trap is believing that more thinking will eventually get you to the answer. It won't. What you need is a way to interrupt the loop. That's what these 3 steps are for. The first thing that helps is something I call a thinking budget. Overthinking mostly happens because you've given your brain unlimited time to spin. There's no deadline, no structure, no signal that says, okay, we're done here. So it just keeps going. The fix is simple. You decide in advance how long you're allowed to think about something, and then you choose. Here's how it works. When you catch yourself spiraling, set a 5-minute timer. That's your thinking window. During those 5 minutes, write down your main concern about each option. Just the top one, not every possible thing that could go wrong, and write down 1 reason each option could actually work. When the timer goes off, you pick the option that feels about 70% right, not 100%, just 70%. This is important because waiting for 100% certainty is what keeps you stuck. 70% is enough to move. And honestly, most of the time, 70% is about as good as it gets with real decisions in real life. Your brain works better with limits. When there's no structure, it'll keep searching forever. When you give it a boundary, it focuses. Try it once and see. Step 2 sounds almost too simple, but stick with me. There's something interesting that happens in your brain when you're in an anxiety spiral or an overthinking loop. The chemical response that's driving it actually shifts every 90 seconds. Which means if you can interrupt the loop for just a minute and a half, your perspective often changes on its own. The way you interrupt it is with movement. When you notice you're spiraling, stand up. Move your body for 90 seconds. Walk around the room. Shake out your arms, do some jumping jacks, walk to the kitchen, and get a glass of water. It doesn't matter what you do. The point is that you physically cannot overthink and coordinate your body at the same time. Your brain has to split its attention. And that tiny interruption is often enough to loosen the grip of whatever loop you were stuck in. After 90 seconds, sit back down. You'll often find the problem looks at least a little different than it did before. Not solved, but less overwhelming. And sometimes that's all you need to make a call. The third thing, and this one gets at the root of a lot of overthinking, is making a real commitment to good enough. A lot of overthinkers are also perfectionists, not necessarily in everything, but in certain areas. And perfectionism is basically the belief that if you think hard enough and plan carefully enough, you can find the option with zero downsides, the truly right answer. But that option usually doesn't exist, and waiting for it keeps you paralyzed. So here's the reframe. Good enough is your new standard. Not settling, not being careless, just honest. When you're stuck on a decision, ask yourself 3 questions. Would someone I respect think this is a reasonable choice? Is this at least 70% as good as my ideal version? Will I be glad I decided now rather than waiting another week? If the answer to those is mostly yes, say it out loud. This is good enough. I'm committing to it. Write it down if it feels important. And here's the thing about decisions. Every one you make teaches you something, even the ones that don't work out perfectly. The ones you never make teach you nothing. You just stay stuck in the same loop, wondering. Here's what I want you to actually do when this video ends. Think of one decision you've been putting off, something you've been turning over for longer than it deserves. Set a 5-minute timer. Write down your top concern about each option and one reason each could work. When the timer goes off, pick the one that feels 70% right. Then stand up and move for 90 seconds. Then say out loud, "Good enough. I'm going with this." That's it. Not a perfect process, just a real one. You don't have to get it exactly right. You just have to get unstuck. And the only way to do that is to decide something, even imperfectly, and see what happens next. If this video was useful to you, there's a good chance the next one will be too. Overthinking and procrastination are basically cousins. One keeps you stuck in your head, the other keeps you stuck in your chair. If you want to tackle both, my video on why you procrastinate is a natural next step. It gets into the real reason your brain keeps avoiding the thing you need to do, and the specific tools that actually break the cycle. A lot of people watch the two together and find they complement each other really well. There's also a video on how to make decisions faster that pairs well with this one. Because a lot of overthinking shows up specifically in the moment of decision, when you're going back and forth between options and can't seem to land anywhere. That video gives you a simple, practical system for cutting through that without feeling like you're being reckless. I've also put together some playlists that group everything by topic. So if something in this video hit home, you can go deeper without having to hunt around for what to watch next. Just find the playlist that fits where you are right now, and keep going from there. There's no perfect order. Just follow what feels most relevant to you. If you haven't subscribed yet, this channel is built around one idea. Small, honest steps beat big dramatic changes every time. Real tools, no fluff, for the people who are tired of being stuck in their own heads and want to actually start moving. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. When you've made your good enough decision today, drop a comment that says, "I chose good enough today." That tells me you didn't just watch, you actually moved. And that's where everything starts.